Pope Leo. Today, on the 40th and last day of my action, I will address not only you and your cardinals and bishops, but all mankind. Over the past 39 days, I have presented concrete evidence of the methods of population control used by secular and spiritual authorities for the past 10,000 years, as well as their modern versions. I have also shown the horrors they have caused and continue to cause, even as they have failed to solve our existential problems, problems that, unless solved, will spell the end of our civilization, our species, and possibly also of all life on Earth. The wall behind me, as you can see, displays the methods used to end lives and limit fertility. Let me just point out that it has an inner ring and an outer ring, and I will explain the significance of these rings. The inner ring is composed of the methods, both past and present, used to kill people. They are infanticide, neglect and abandonment, and their modern versions of abortion and preventing conception through chronic chemical poisoning, cannibalism, endo, exo, necro, and homicidal cannibalism, and the modern version of fake meat through tissue engineering techniques that cultivate stem cells on natural or synthetic scaffolds. And then we have wars of attrition or mutual assistance and wars of conquest or imperial expansion, as well as their modern versions of genocidal wars directed at the civilian population, or wars of extermination, fake wars, proxy wars, cold wars, and economic and cyber wars. Then we have human ritual sacrifice and the modern version of depopulation by vaccination, slavery and serfdom and the modern version of wage slavery and immigrant labor combined with artificial inflation and public debt. We also have genocide and the modern version of mass sterilization through chemical poisoning, forced migration, exile, mass expulsions, and colonization, and their modern versions of emigration and immigration, social exclusion and the modern version of unemployment and the removal of people from any and all social assistance programs, which leads to homelessness and an early death, death by overwork and its modern version of work-related stress due to excessive overtime that results in death, self-immolation and the modern version of sex-selective abortion, witch burning, we also have witch burning and the modern version of death by polypharmacy, the drug abuse, smoking, and alcoholism. And then we have biological warfare and the bubonic plague and the modern version of man-made pandemics and epidemics through gene editing technology and gain-of-function research. We also have suicide and mass suicide, heresy and apostasy and the modern versions of political correctness, censorship, and the attendant cancel culture. We also have massacres and the modern version of self-defense against invented terrorists. And the latest ones, capital punishment and the modern version of a lifelong imprisonment, nuclear war, and the modern version of Wi-Fi radiation and excessive use of X-ray machines, CT scanners, PET scanners, and radiation therapy machines like linear accelerator, chemical poisoning through endocrine disruptors inserted in the basic elements of life, and last but not least, biological depopulation through mRNA vaccines. And the outer ring, as you can see, we have the methods used to prevent birth, both past and present, which are of three categories, as I have discussed over the past lessons: mutilation, segregation, and sterilization. They are circumcision, female genital mutilation, infibulation, castration, foot binding, the transgender ideology and sex change operations, monasticism, harems, incarceration, pederasty, intercrural sex, homosexuality, the LGBTQ perversion, covert chemical sterilization, surgical sterilization, namely tubal ligations for women and vasectomies for men, and birth control. First, just in the form of pessaries and primitive condoms, and currently in the form of oral contraceptives, birth control pills, patches, injections, vaginal rings, implants, intrauterine devices, male and female condoms, spermicides, morning after pills, and the age-old method of coitus interruptus, or withdrawal. The list is long and frightening, yet governments and organized religions still want us to believe that there is no population control program. Furthermore, I have not yet covered the many psychosocial and economic means used to subvert the family structure, to prevent family formation, destroy as many families as possible once formed, and keep families small and unstable. As such, Pope Leo's education remains unfinished until such time as you, the people, stop being such disgusting cowards and start funding and disseminating my work. Until such time, you will all continue to be manipulated like mindless domestic animals to kill, maim, sterilize, mutilate, exploit, abuse, imprison, and demonize each other. All of these methods will continue in their old or modern forms, and you will all be at the receiving end of this horror. If mankind does not change course and adopts an open population stabilization law with 3 components: replacement level fertility, required assisted dying, and optimal population levels, we will not get past the 3rd law of civilization building, let alone live long enough to accomplish the 4th law of civilization building. For those of you with short memories, the 3rd law states that once you get close to the planet's carrying capacity, you have to stabilize the population in perpetuity and stabilize it at a level that is sustainable for any given planet, so the planet's life support systems are not damaged, in which case intelligent life would unintelligently sow the seed of its own destruction. And the 4th law states that once a state of harmony is reached between civilization and nature, all subsequent progress depends on society's ability to reduce the number of people in direct but inverse proportion with the per capita increase in the consumption of resources, and that this reduction has to be accomplished with everyone's free and conscious collaboration. In other words, the more technologically advanced our civilization becomes, the fewer people can be accommodated on planet Earth, and all people must contribute to mankind's reduction in numbers to enable mankind's ascension in level of civilization. To accomplish the 3rd law, we will have to lower the population to 6 billion by 2100 and to at most 4 billion by 2150. Otherwise, we will self-destruct before having the chance to ascend to a higher level of civilization. In other words, before we can even try to accomplish the 4th law of civilization building. In the center of the ring, as you can see, there are these 2 graphs, the inverted population pyramid and a regular population pyramid. And they represent the pathetic results arrived at so far by the methods of killing people and of preventing the birth of babies that I have listed and that you see plastered here on the wall all around these 2 center pictures. Now, the still rapidly growing populations of the developing world, represented by the population pyramid below, right here, and the rapidly aging populations of the developed world, represented by the inverted population pyramid here above, that I have discussed multiple times. And what I have not yet explained on this picture is the photographs at every end, on each end, namely the nuclear annihilation and the environmental devastation. These are the only 2 possible outcomes if we continue to live in a system that deals with population control by these grotesque, covert, coercive measures that our leaders have employed for the past 10,000 years. So these are the only 2 outcomes: nuclear annihilation or environmental devastation. Mankind has boxed itself in because we have reached multiple ceilings on the population front. On the production and consumption front, so we have a ceiling on the population front. We have 8.2 billion people. That's 4 billion more than the planet can sustain at current levels of consumption. So we cannot grow we must decrease the population and decrease it drastically. Then we have a ceiling on the production and consumption front. We cannot increase consumption, we don't have the resources, and that is why 1 billion people are starving, 2 billion people live in abject poverty, and 4 billion people live an uncertain future, paycheck from paycheck. Then we have a ceiling on the environmental front. We are devastating the planet's life support system, and as a result, the UN and the international community can no longer prevent social, environmental, demographic, economic, and political collapse. We are really boxed in. We are inside of the box of our own making because our leaders have refused to open up the program of population control and empower mankind. Only a population stabilization law enforced globally by a single body, a planetary well-being authority guided by the tenets of sanctum, mankind's universal religion, can save us from self-destruction by nuclear annihilation or environmental devastation. All existing structures, be they political, economic, or spiritual, are outdated relics from the past. They were created by our forefathers to solve the problems of their times and have long become obsolete, which is why mankind is going from bad to worse at an accelerated speed. God empowered me with the task of creating a civilization capable of living in the image of God, an evolved civilization fit for the 21st century and beyond. No savior will come to our rescue. We must save ourselves by reestablishing harmony with nature, among humans, and between generations. It is everyone's duty to call for this evolved civilization that requires us all to sacrifice in equal measure, but saves us all from being sacrificed and ultimately from self-annihilation. If you, as an individual, fail to do your duty, then you are as responsible as your leaders for mankind's self-destruction and for the horrors that you will all suffer until human civilization finally collapses under the colossal weight of your collective stupidity. You have been warned.